night had a silence that felt heavier than usual, as though the air itself was waiting for something to happen. In the distance, the faint hum of traffic on the city's main road barely reached the old school building where I had chosen to spend my evening. It was exam season, and for students like me, the library had become less of a resource and more of a sanctuary. My name is Aisha Malik. At 17, I was the kind of student who lived more in books than in reality. With final exams looming over me like a storm cloud, the library was the only place that offered comfort, a place where pages turned louder than my thoughts, and where silence wasn't suffocating, but productive. The school had extended library hours for the first time in years. Normally, it closed at 5 p.m. sharp, but with exams approaching, the administration allowed students to study until 11 at night. Most of my classmates preferred the comfort of their homes, but not me. My house was close to the school, just a 15-minute walk, and filled with distractions I couldn't afford. So, I stayed behind. That evening I arrived around 6. The sky was already turning a dim shade of purple, the kind of twilight that makes shadows stretch unnaturally long. Inside, the library was cool and smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood. Fluorescent lights flickered above, humming softly as I set my books on a desk near the far corner. Hours slipped away without my noticing. Notes filled page after page, my pen moving like a machine. My mind swam with formulas, historical dates, and paragraphs of literature analysis. The silence around me grew thicker. By the time I looked up from my notebook, the clock above the entrance showed 10:05 p.m. A cold realization washed over me. I had never stayed this late before. By 8 o'clock, there were usually a few stragglers, students like me, stubbornly fighting drowsiness. But now, the library was deserted. Every table was empty, every chair neatly tucked in, as though I'd been the only one there all along. The shadows between the shelves seemed darker, heavier, pressing inward. I told myself it was fine. Just 15 more minutes. 15 minutes to finish revising a few chapters. Then I would pack up and leave. That's when I heard it. A sound. Not loud, not clear, but distinct enough to send a chill racing down my spine. It was the shuffle of footsteps, slow, dragging footsteps, moving just outside the library door. I froze, pen still in my hand. The sound stopped. The silence returned, thicker now, like it was watching me. My heart began to hammer in my chest. Probably the janitor, I whispered to myself, though my voice sounded foreign, brittle. Or maybe another student. I tried to focus again, but my hands were trembling. The pen slipped slightly, leaving an ugly ink smear on my notes. Then the sound came again. Shuffle, drag, shuffle. Closer this time. I slammed my notebook shut, shoved everything into my bag with clumsy hands, and stood. The air felt colder near the door, as though something beyond it carried winter on its back. For a moment, I thought I saw the handle twitch, but when I blinked, it was still. Enough was enough. I wasn't staying another second. I pushed the door open, stepped into the hallway, and instantly regretted it. The corridor stretched long and narrow, lit by weak yellow bulbs that buzzed faintly. My footsteps echoed too loudly, bouncing back at me like another set of steps trailing just behind. On the right at the far end of the corridor was the main exit. Home was just beyond that door. Safety. I kept moving, quickening my pace. Halfway through, I stopped. There, at the very end of the corridor, stood a figure. A woman. She was motionless, her form faintly visible in the dim light. her head tilted ever so slightly to one side, as if curious. Her arms hung lifelessly by her side. I couldn't see her face. The silence was unbearable. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, and forced myself to speak. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. No answer. For 3 endless seconds, she didn't move. Then, as though the question itself had disturbed her, she turned, not walked, not stepped, but turned and slipped out of sight. My body sagged with relief. She was gone. Whoever she was gone. I nearly ran to the main door, pushing it open with a force that startled even me. The night air hit me like a slap, cool, damp, carrying the faint smell of rain on concrete. But something was wrong. The street outside was deserted. Not just quiet, but unnaturally so. No stray dogs, no passing cars, no shop lights still glowing in the distance. Just silence, stretching endlessly. It was never like this. The street near our school was usually alive, even late at night. Small food stalls still open, neighbors walking home, the occasional motorbike rattling by. But now, nothing. I gripped my bag tighter and lowered my gaze, forcing myself to walk, step by step, eyes fixed on the ground. If I didn't look around, maybe the feeling of being watched would fade. That's when I saw it. A shadow, elongated on the ground before me, stretching longer than natural, moving in rhythm with steps that weren't mine. I froze, my eyes darting upward, and I saw her again. A woman walking ahead of me, her pace slow, unsteady. She limped, dragging one leg behind her as though it had been broken long ago. Her clothes hung loose and filthy, the fabric torn at the edges. Her hair was wild, tangled, falling over her face in a curtain of darkness. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. It was as though the earth had rooted me in place, forcing me to watch. She was real, too real, and yet not. Her body bent at angles that defied nature, arms twisted, feet dragging against the pavement with a sound that pierced the silence. I had never known fear so sharp, so consuming. It felt like my very soul was shivering inside me. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but no sound escaped my lips. I could only watch as the woman slowed, her head twitching slightly, as if she sensed me there. And then she stopped. The silence deepened. She turned her head slowly, unbearably slowly, until I could almost see the pale glint of her face beneath the mess of hair. And then, in a voice that was neither loud nor soft but impossibly hollow, she whispered, "Are you lost?" Her words lingered in the air like frost, slipping into my ears, sinking deep into the marrow of my bones. "Are you lost?" The question was so simple, so human, yet nothing about it felt human at all. The syllables were dry, fragile, as though her throat had never known water, as though she had dragged those words up from the hollow of a grave. My mouth opened, but no sound came. My lips trembled. The woman stood still, frozen mid-step. Her head was still tilted toward me, though her hair veiled her face. I couldn't see her eyes, but I could feel them, burning, invisible, piercing me with the weight of something ancient and merciless. Then she began to move, not toward me, not away, just sideways. A slow, jagged glide, as though she was stitched to the air itself. Her limbs jerked in sharp angles, each movement wrong, each step accompanied by the dry scrape of her heel, dragging against the pavement. I staggered back, nearly tripping over my own feet. My heart was thunder in my chest. I'm going home, I managed to whisper. My voice sounded like a plea, a confession. She stopped. For a moment, silence returned. My lungs burned with the effort of holding still, of waiting. Then, with a sound so faint I almost mistook it for the wind, she laughed. Not a loud laugh, not a shriek, but a shallow, broken laugh, like air forced through shattered glass. I bolted. The road stretched endlessly before me. My footsteps echoed against the dead silence of the night. Every shadow seemed to reach for me. Every street lamp flickered as I passed, casting fractured shapes across the ground. But no matter how far I ran, I could hear it. The drag, the shuffle, her footsteps, always behind me. Never closer, never farther, just there. I turned corners, darted into side streets, desperate to shake her off. But when I dared to glance back, she was there, always there, limping, watching, waiting. It felt like I was running through a nightmare, each street longer than the last, each turn only leading me deeper into some endless maze. And then, suddenly, I wasn't on my street anymore. I stopped, gasping for breath, my vision swimming. My school was nowhere in sight. My neighborhood was gone. The familiar stalls and houses I had walked past for years had vanished. Instead, I stood before a road I had never seen before. It stretched into darkness, lined with houses that seemed older than time itself. Their walls were cracked, their windows hollow and black. No lights, no signs of life, just silence. I staggered back. No, this isn't real, I whispered. Behind me the sound came again. Shuffle, drag, shuffle. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I forced my legs to move, to follow the road before me. Each step echoed louder than the last, bouncing off the crumbling houses that loomed over me like silent sentinels. The air grew colder. My breath came out in white clouds. My hands shook as I clutched my bag against my chest, as if the weight of books inside could protect me from whatever had claimed the night. Somewhere in the distance I heard a whisper, faint, female, the same voice as before. Don't run. I broke into a sprint. The houses blurred past me, their windows watching, their doors gaping like open mouths. My shoes pounded against cracked pavement, every step heavier than the last. The whisper grew louder surrounding me, coming from everywhere at once. Don't run. Stay. Stay. I couldn't stop. My body moved on instinct alone, driven by terror so deep it drowned every rational thought. Then I saw it. At the end of the road stood a house larger than the rest. Its frame was crooked, its roof sagging, yet its presence was undeniable. Unlike the others, its windows weren't empty. They glowed faintly, pale, sickly yellow light spilling from within. The only light in this entire place. My lungs screamed for air. My legs burned. I had no choice, whether run into the glowing house or let her catch me. I chose the house. The door creaked open as though it had been waiting for me. I stumbled inside, collapsing onto the dusty wooden floor. The smell hit me instantly. Mold, decay, and something metallic like rust or old blood. The door slammed shut behind me. The sound echoed through the house, and with it, silence fell again. For a moment I thought I was safe. My chest rose and fell rapidly, my heart hammering against my ribs. I pressed my palms against the floor to steady myself, but they came away damp and sticky. In the faint light, I saw smears of something dark staining the wood. Blood. I staggered back, my breath caught in my throat, and then I heard it, not outside, not behind me, but upstairs. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing across the ceiling. I tilted my head up, staring at the cracked plaster above. The sound grew heavier, louder, till dust rained down with each step. My body screamed to run, but where? back outside into the streets where she was waiting, deeper into the house where something else prowled. The choice was unbearable. Then, a whisper slid down the walls, curling into my ears. "You're home now." The whisper coiled around me like smoke, sinking into my skin. "You're home now." Number. I wasn't home. My home was 15 minutes from school, a small brick house with flickering yellow lights in the windows. My mother waiting with a cup of tea. This place wasn't mine. This house belonged to someone or something else. The footsteps above creaked again, slow, patient, as though whatever was upstairs knew I had nowhere else to go. I pressed myself against the nearest wall, my bag still clutched in trembling hands. My books pressed into my chest, heavy and useless. I stared at the door I had entered through, closed. I hadn't touched it, hadn't locked it, but it was shut so tightly that it might as well have been welded to the frame. I forced myself toward it, legs shaking, heart clawing at my ribs. My hand closed around the doorknob. Cold, so cold that it burned. I twisted, pulled, shoved my shoulder into the wood. The door didn't budge. That's when I felt it. The air behind me shift, the weight of unseen eyes pressing against the back of my skull. I turned. The hallway stretched deeper into the house, longer than it should have been. Dim yellow light flickered from oil lamps mounted on the walls, though I hadn't seen them before. Their flames danced, shadows writhing like living things. The floorboards creaked, not under my feet, but somewhere ahead. A second set of footsteps echoed faintly, keeping time with the ones above. Trapped. I had no choice but to move forward. The hallway seemed endless, the walls pressing closer with every step. Dust floated in the air, thick and heavy, clogging my throat. The smell of rot grew stronger. Doors lined the corridor, each identical, each shut tight. Their paint was chipped, their brass handles tarnished with age. Some bore deep scratches, as though something inside had clawed to get out. I didn't want to know what was behind them. At the end of the hall stood a staircase. Its railing was broken, splintered in places, and the steps groaned under their own weight. The footsteps above grew louder. They were moving toward the staircase. My pulses spiked. My choices narrowed. Stay where I was and wait for whatever was coming down, or move deeper into the maze of doors and shadows. Before I could decide, one of the doors on my left creaked open, just an inch. A draft of icy air swept out, brushing against my skin. I froze, staring at the sliver of darkness beyond the doorframe. It was pitch black, deeper than any natural shadow. My breath came shallow, clouding in the cold. Then, from within that blackness, something moved. Not a shape, not a figure, just movement. A ripple, like liquid stirred by an unseen hand. A whisper slid out, low and broken. "Aisha." My blood froze. No one here should know my name. The door creaked wider, the whisper growing louder, more insistent. "Aisha, come in." I stumbled back, shaking my head violently. "No, no." My voice cracked in the silence. The floor above groaned, and I heard it again. The dragging step, the shuffle, descending the stairs. Panic surged through me. I darted forward, past the half-open door, past the whispers clawing at my name, and seized the railing of the staircase. Up or down, down. The stairs curved into darkness below, leading deeper into the house. Every instinct screamed that it was the wrong choice, but the footsteps above had already reached the landing. I could hear them now, just a few feet away. I fled downward. The basement smelled of damp earth and mildew. My shoes squelched against the stone floor, slick with moisture. The air was colder here, thick and wet, clinging to my skin. A single light bulb swayed from the ceiling, its weak glow casting jittering shadows against the walls. The room was filled with objects I couldn't make sense of at first. Broken furniture, shattered mirrors, and piles of old books. But then I saw them. Photos. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They covered the walls, tacked up with rusted nails, strung along with twine. Each photo showed a student. Different faces, different uniforms, all staring at the camera with vacant expressions, their eyes strangely unfocused. My stomach twisted as I recognized some of them. Classmates, seniors who had graduated years ago, even teachers. All of them were people from my school. I staggered closer, my fingers trembling as I reached for one. It was damp, the edges curling, the ink smudged. The girl in the picture was smiling faintly, her face familiar. I had seen her photo in the school's memorial hall, a student who had died in an accident long before I enrolled. My chest tightened. This wasn't possible. The sound of dragging footsteps returned. Not from above, from the basement. I spun around. The shadows in the corners rippled, stretching. The swaying light bulb flickered, plunging the room into moments of suffocating darkness. And then I saw her, the woman. Her body bent, her limbs contorted. She stepped into the faint circle of light, her face finally visible. Her skin was gray, stretched thin over bone. Her mouth hung open, lips cracked, teeth blackened. But it was her eyes that froze me. Empty. Hollow sockets, dark and endless, staring straight through me. Her voice scraped against the walls, every word like broken glass. They all stayed. You will too. I staggered back, my heels striking a pile of books. They toppled, crashing to the ground, in a wave of dust. The woman's head snapped toward the sound, her body twitching violently, as though every movement caused her pain. I bolted, deeper into the basement, through a narrow doorway at the far end. The passage beyond was narrower, the ceiling low. Cobwebs clung to my face, my hands. I didn't care. I just needed distance. The whispers followed. Not just one voice now, but many. Layered, male, female, young, old, all chanting the same words. Stay, stay, stay. The passage ended at another staircase, this one leading up. I didn't hesitate. I scrambled upward, my palms slipping on the damp railing, my lungs burning. When I burst through the door at the top, I found myself back in the corridor I had first entered. Only it wasn't the same. The doors were all open now, and from each doorway, shadows leaned out, faces pale and twisted, eyes hollow, mouths moving in silent screams. My body went cold. I was no longer a guest in this house. I was prey.
The corridor stretched out like a throat, every open doorway gaping like a hungry mouth. Shadows writhed inside them, whispering in voices I half recognized. Voices of classmates, teachers, maybe even strangers I'd passed in the schoolyard. My knees trembled as I staggered forward. My bag slipped from my shoulder, spilling books across the floor. Their covers slapped the wood like muffled gunshots, but I couldn't stop to pick them up. The whispers surged louder, overlapping. Stay! Don't leave! You belong here. I pressed my hands to my ears. Shut up! I screamed. My voice echoed down the hallway, swallowed by the house. A door to my right slammed shut on its own. Another swung wide, its hinges shrieking. A gust of stale air rushed out, carrying the stench of rot. And then I saw it. At the end of the hall, a faint glow. Not warm or inviting, more like the dull orange of a dying fire. Drawn by instinct more than choice, I moved toward it. My shoes clicked against the warped boards, each step an effort. The glow came from a room at the very end, a library. Not like the one at school, this was older, grander, though long abandoned. Shelves sagged under the weight of dusty tomes. The fireplace at the far end held the remnants of old coals, glowing faintly, though no fire had burned here in years. I stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of charred wood and mold. On a table near the fireplace lay a stack of newspapers, their pages yellowed, edges crumbling. My hand shook as I reached for the top one, brushing away the dust. Local tragedy. Mother and child perish in flames. The headline struck me like a blow. My eyes scanned the text beneath. Residents of the Ashbury district were shocked yesterday evening when a sudden blaze consumed the home of Farah Malik and her 9-year-old daughter. Neighbors reported hearing screams before the roof collapsed. Though firefighters attempted to reach them, both bodies were found together in the remains of the basement. Witnesses say Mrs. Malik was last seen clutching her daughter, refusing to let her go even as the flames surrounded them. I dropped the paper, my chest heaving. Farah. That name, why did it feel so familiar? I had heard whispers of it in school, old rumors traded between students when teachers weren't listening. Some said a woman had once haunted the school grounds, searching for her lost daughter. Others swore they had seen her shadow in the library after hours. I forced my gaze to the next newspaper. School mourns young student. The photo showed a girl, round cheeks, bright eyes, a ribbon in her hair. The caption named her Nadia Malik. My stomach turned to ice. Nadia, Farah's daughter. She had been a student at my very school decades ago. I remembered now. Her picture was in the old memorial corridor, the one we all hurried past without looking too closely. I pressed the paper back onto the table, my hands trembling so badly the pages rattled. The whispers returned, softer now, threading through the cracks in the walls. She wanted her back. She never left. She waits. I turned toward the fireplace. The faint glow of the coals brightened suddenly, flaring with unnatural light. Flames leapt upward, though no wood fed them. The fire hissed, crackled, then roared, filling the room with searing heat. And within the flames, faces, dozens of them, screaming silently, mouths wide, eyes hollow. One face leaned closer, pushing through the fire. The mother, her charred skin peeled, her hair burned away, yet her hollow eyes bore into mine with unbearable intensity. Her voice crackled like burning wood. You took her from me. I stumbled back, shaking my head violently. No! I don't even know her. The fire hissed, spitting embers across the floor. The woman's skeletal hand stretched toward me, reaching through the flames. She was mine. She will be again. The heat seared my skin. I turned and bolted from the library, the whispers chasing me like hounds. The hallway had changed again, no longer lined with doors, just one, massive and ornate, at the far end. Its wood was carved with twisting shapes, vines, serpents, faces frozen in agony. The brass handle gleamed faintly, as though freshly polished. Something compelled me forward. Each step dragged, as if the floor resisted me. My chest ached, my breath ragged, but I couldn't stop. When I reached the door, I hesitated only a moment before pulling it open. The room beyond was vast, cathedral-like. High ceilings arched overhead, cobwebs dangling like veils. The floor was stone, cracked and uneven, covered in chalk markings, symbols I didn't recognize drawn in frantic, overlapping strokes. And in the center, a crib, wooden, small, rocking gently though no hand touched it. I froze, my stomach lurching. The air around the crib shimmered, bending like heat haze. Then the crying began. Soft at first, the fragile wail of an infant. But as I stood paralyzed, the cry grew louder, harsher, filling every corner of the vast chamber. I covered my ears, but it seeped through, rattling in my skull. The crib rocked harder, slamming against the stone floor. A figure rose beside it, the woman again, Farah. Her body taller now, stretched unnaturally thin, her limbs bending at impossible angles. She cradled something against her chest, something small, wrapped in filthy cloth. Her voice sliced through the crying. "She needs a sister?" I shook my head violently. No, leave me alone." The cloth bundle writhed in her arms. A tiny hand poked free, skeletal, gray, its nails black. The woman stepped toward me, her head tilting unnaturally, her mouth widening in a jagged grin. "You'll stay. You'll keep her company." The floor shifted beneath me, the chalk symbols glowing faintly. A pull gripped my ankles, dragging me toward the crib, toward her. I fought, clawing at the stone, my nails splitting, blood smearing across the floor. The whispers rose into a deafening chorus. "Stay, stay, stay." And through it all, the baby's cries shrieked, piercing and endless. My vision blurred, my body weakened, and just before the shadow swallowed me whole, I heard her whisper again, "You're home now." The pull on my ankles tightened, dragging me closer to the glowing chalk circle. My nails scraped uselessly against the stone. Blood slicked my fingers, every movement slower, weaker. The baby's cries rose to a shriek that drilled through my skull. The woman's grin widened, stretching too far, her jaw cracking as it opened. Her voice was a chorus now. Hers, the whispers, the cries, all folding into one monstrous sound. "She needs you!" I screamed, my voice raw. "I'm not staying here!" The symbols on the floor flared brighter, their glow searing against my eyes. A heat rose from them, not like fire, but like fever, making my skin blister. Desperate, I reached for my bag, the one I had dropped earlier in the hall. Gone. But something else was there, my textbook. It lay inches away, half burnt, its cover smoldering as though the heat of the symbols had already claimed it. With a sob of effort, I lunged forward, seizing the book. Its weight grounded me, its edges biting into my palm. I swung it wildly, smashing it against the floor. The edge of the chalk circle broke, scattering dust into the air. The pull weakened. The woman screamed. Her voice split the air like thunder, rattling the walls, shaking the very stone beneath me. She clutched the bundle tighter, her skeletal fingers digging into the filthy cloth. "You can't break it! She is bound to me!" The chalk flared again, repairing itself. The symbols redrew, glowing stronger, angrier. Panic surged through me. I raised the book again, slamming it against the marks. The impact sent a jolt up my arms, but the line cracked, fissures spreading outward. The cries faltered, breaking into hiccuping wails. The woman's form flickered, her stretched limbs spasming, twitching as though something inside her resisted. I took the chance and scrambled backward, out of the circle. My chest heaved, lungs clawing for air, the whispers howled in rage. From every wall, shadowed hands reached toward me, clawing the air, their fingertips inches from my face. I bolted for the door. It slammed shut. The room plunged into silence. No whispers, no crying, just the heavy sound of my own breath. Slowly, I turned. The woman stood inches away, her hollow eyes level with mine. The bundle was gone. Her arms hung limp, her fingers broken, dangling like snapped twigs. Her voice rasped, low, guttural. "You can't leave. The house has chosen." I stumbled back, my spine pressing against the locked door. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "No," I whispered. My voice shook, but I forced the word out again, louder. "No, I don't belong here." Her head tilted, her hair falling forward in clumps. "You studied where she studied. You walked where she walked. You are hers now." Something in me snapped. Maybe it was fear, maybe rage, maybe sheer defiance. I raised the bloodied textbook like a weapon. "I'm not her replacement!" I screamed. The woman's body convulsed, her jaw unhinging wider, a scream ripping from her throat so loud it shattered the glass in the high windows. Shards rained down, slicing my skin. I threw myself sideways, covering my head as shards scattered across the floor. The symbols flickered violently, their glow sputtering. Through the chaos, I saw it. The crib. It still rocked, though empty now. And on its side, etched deep into the wood, words burned with unnatural fire. Ashes to ashes, blood to blood, the ritual. This wasn't just about grief. This was a binding, a cycle. The mother, the daughter, the chosen.
I understood then. Every photo in that basement, every student whose face had been preserved, every whisper in the walls, they had all been pulled into her obsession, into her endless search for the child she had lost. And now, it was my turn, unless I broke it. But how? My gaze darted to the fireplace in the far corner. Though we weren't in the library anymore, I could still smell the smoke, the faint burn of ash. Fire. That was how they had died. That was how this had begun. Maybe that was how it had to end. The woman lunged at me, her arms snapping forward with inhuman speed. I rolled across the floor, the textbook flying from my grip. My hands scrambled against the stone until they found a jagged shard of glass. I slashed it across one of the glowing symbols. A scream erupted, not from her throat, but from the house itself. The walls groaned, dust and plaster raining down. The woman staggered, her form flickering, blurring. I slashed again and again, each strike breaking another symbol, scattering chalk and dust. The whispers shrieked, rising to a fever pitch. You can't break it. She will never let go. She will never let you leave. The woman's body convulsed, her limbs cracking, folding inward. The bundle reappeared in her arms, writhing, clawing. Tiny skeletal fingers reached from the cloth, scratching her skin. She screamed, trying to hold it tighter, but the bundle ripped free. It fell to the floor with a sickening thud, unraveling to reveal nothing but ash and bone. The chalk circle flared one last time, then shattered, the light exploding outward. I was thrown against the wall, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. Silence. When I forced my eyes open, the room was empty. The crib lay broken. The chalk was nothing but scattered dust. And the woman, gone. My chest heaved. Every nerve in my body screamed. My hands bled. My throat burned. But I was alive. Slowly, painfully, I pushed myself to my feet. The door behind me was open. For the first time since entering this nightmare, I had a way out. But as I stepped into the corridor, I realized something that froze me in place. The photos, they were gone. All of them. Every face, every student, every teacher, erased. And in their place, one single photo hung crooked on the wall. Me, my face, eyes unfocused, smile vacant, trapped.